Hey, hello friends. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Dan, and I have been working already for several hours, but I brought you in now to show the hard work. I've said before, somewhere, sometime, the hardest work in art is really doing rough sketches. So that's what I've called it, the hard work of rough sketches. Oh, there's no clapper there. There. I've got a new clapper on the way, I promise. Anyway, Daily Art Adventure 920. Can you believe it? And let me move you guys right now and give you a straight down look at my work surface. There we go. And let you know that I'm doing sketches for a mural. Okay, this is a job that grew. I've already done, in the last couple weeks, I did this much of the mural. This is 4 sides of a pillar or a post in the middle of the room, 4 different sides. And then this is about a 14-foot wall, 8 feet tall. And as you can see, it has this decorative panel at the bottom. The pillars have the same thing at the bottom, but I didn't include those in this photograph. So again, this is an illustration of this mural that is a mashup of music and city skyline and urban street scene. So it's a whole hodgepodge of things. For instance, sometimes they're musical instruments just standing up in the middle of the landscape, a stack of speakers there, a microphone, a clarinet, you know, the necks of several. This is upright bass. There's just there's a name for that kind of box. And then of course, like in this case, I put windows on the upright bass. So again, it's just this mashup. Here's a trombone slide sticking up in the air, and here's the rest of the trombones on the front of that building. Here's a Les Paul guitar just standing right there in the middle of the city with nothing architectural about it. And here's a classical guitar, same thing. Anyway, so it was quite the challenging and fun assignment, and they liked it well enough. This is, by the way, I put Jimi Hendrix up in the clouds. He's on the back side of the pillar, so in my mind it was a little bit of a kind of a punchline, something just kind of fun. And then when they saw that, they said, oh, could you do it? And then they gave me a whole bunch of other requests. So like Selena Gomez's, you can't see her there, hidden on that speaker. Here's Tupac Shakur in the tree here. Here's what's his name? The singer. Blue Eyes, old Blue Eyes. Good grief, my brain just really goes to pot. Frank Sinatra. When I'm, I don't know, maybe my brain's just going to pot, period. Anyway, here's an old Volkswagen bus, hippie bus, painted. A group of musicians sitting out on a porch and a patio, on a patio on the sidewalk playing, Flying V guitar. This guitar right here is actually owned by the company that I'm doing the work for. They have a literal, this is their company logo, and they have it in a cabinet, and I went and took a picture of it, worked that in. So anyway, after I did one wall and one pillar, this totals about 22 feet, they said, hey, why don't we fill up that last wall? So that's the assignment here. The last wall with the panels at the bottom leaves me about 6 feet by 8.5 feet to fill. And I'm working on the moment, at the moment on, and so this gonna have to make you go kind of sideways. I'm working on a lap board. Right, that's so that, as you may know, so that I can hold the drawing utensil side saddle, so I don't get tight and detailed. And so in order to hold it side saddle, you have to have or it works best if the plane, so to speak, is pointed straight at your nose instead of at the ceiling. All right, so well, hang on. Before I do that, let me tell you that first of all, yesterday my wife and I were attending a graduation ceremony and a party for a dear young friend of ours who's graduating. So at the graduation and at the party, I sat there with my little notebook and did a bunch of sketching. I won't go into detail here, but okay, so this is yesterday's work. And I came up with several lists of things that I wanted. That's in addition, there's already, I don't know, 100 musical references in I'm going to count them when I'm done to actually make sure. But I spent the last couple of hours, this is a page coming up with references. Again, this is all part of the work this is the technology, speaker stand, stage light, music stand, direct box. Most of you guys won't even know what that is, but every musician recognize that. And of course, XLR cables, quarter-inch cables. Similar, these are amplifier or speaker logos. Fender, PV, Bose, and Vox are speakers. Shure, Electro Voice, and Sennheiser are microphone logo. So again, every musician would recognize. Now, of course, I'm not going to try to fit every one of these in this 48-foot, 50 square foot mural. I'm not going to try to fit them all, but I'll fit them a bunch. This is an old one I did a while ago. 2 stacks of speakers. So that's some of my reference. This is stuff I did earlier for the first time, logos of bands. Today, because they wanted more faces, so I went through, I already have several references in the mural that's finished. I have references to several musicians, but some of these I went through Rolling Stone's top. Again, this is all just part of being an artist. You know, it's like, and if there's any young people watching, this is your job as an artist. If you're an illustrator, if you are doing a mural like this is your job. The research is up to you. So I Googled Rolling Stone's top 100 musical acts of all time. Number 1 was the Beatles. I forget who was number 2, but there were no surprises. I went down to the top, scrolled down to the top. Number 1, if you understand online, it's top. They start at number 100 and go down to number 1. There were no surprises to me, and I'm not a pop music aficionado. Anyway, there are a few on here that I picked because of the image. Like Willie Nelson probably didn't make the top 100, but this face is, as an artist, is so classic to me. I love the face. Likewise, I don't know that I'll use any of these. Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, Kiss. These guys are all. I actually looked up at one point the most handsome or beautiful faces in rock music. They had Blondie. Debbie Harry is number 1, and David, what's his name, was high on the list there. And then this picture of Lennon, even though I already have the Beatles, such an iconic image. And same thing with David Bowie, Little Richard. And I already have a reference to Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was number 2, by the way. And then I don't have any Chicago in there yet, and I'm a trumpet player. In fact, last week I stumbled upon a website that said top most talented rock groups of all time. Whoever put it together was ignorant. I was about to say a much more harsh word. Was a moron. Some of us happen to know. Anyway, Chicago is not on the list, which is just absurd beyond description. Is so talented. Whoever did it was not a musician. Anyway, I'm getting too deep in the woods here. So again, instruments of all kinds. Now these pages are things that I missed. Hammond B3 organ here. I didn't do this the last time. A cowbell, didn't have that the last time. I missed a mandolin and a bass and a timpani and anyway, you get the idea. I don't have to do any more. A bunch of drums. I said Beatles because I read that logo right there. a bunch of drum stuff, and these are pictures of stuff from downstairs, a flute, a bunch of stuff that we have in the house downstairs. Pages. Anyway, all right, you got the idea? Pages and pages and pages and pages of reference that I will be grabbing as I work on, and then I have again more pages that I put together earlier. Oh, this page should be up here with the logos. There we go. Musical. I'm a musician, so I actually know how to notate music, but this is to give me ideas in case I forget something. There you go. So now, let's start drawing, start mashing up, and I know you're making you guys see my drawing surface at a terrible angle, but can't be helped. Sorry about that. The number one rule when it comes to doing rough sketches, the number one rule, after you've done all the left brain analytical research work, the number one rule is keep your pencil moving. This is, now you know the name of the company. I was trying to keep that secret. Too late now. That's their logo. That's the company. And these are some of their buildings around the country. And they had asked that I incorporate those into the first mural, and I failed. So now I'm going to be really careful to get some of these buildings. And their company logo, which is a big statue here outside their headquarters in RTP, Research Triangle Park. Be that as it may. So here's some buildings, all different kinds of buildings. I didn't print this out, but over to my left is my computer, and I pulled up city skylines on that. Now I do have one idea here that I don't know, and I'm going to submit this to my client, of course. When we started this job several months ago, one of the questions was, at least in my mind, one of the questions was, did they want cities in music, or did they want nature in music? And we decided to go with cities. But I had an idea. How about if I put a bridge, which would be a great pill? I think probably this would turn into a guitar neck, right? The verticals on the bridge, whatever you call those towers, I would make them guitars, right? And this might even be musical notation here, I'm not sure. But it's kind of a Golden Gate-ish kind of bridge. And over here, maybe have nature. I don't know if they'd go for that or not, but it seemed to me to be kind of cool to have just a little bit of, something different in the, so I guess this would be maybe a snow-covered mountain over here. And then hills and forests and so forth. And again, sneaking musical symbols and icons into the mountain and the forest. So I don't know if they'll go for that, but it seems to me like that would be a fun idea. Let me describe, and I said in my title here today, hello, Sharon London. Good to have you watching, and thanks for speaking up. I said the number one rule of doing rough sketches, and it's the hardest, in many ways, the hardest mental work of the art businesses. You're just making stuff up, and it's hard to make stuff up out of whole cloth, as the expression goes. Number one, keep your hand moving. Number two, toggle back and forth between left brain and right brain, left, right. Now, how do you know when you're in your creative right brain? That's the easiest way to describe it. And the answer is your hand is moving faster than your brain. Okay, so that's why I say the number one rule is just keep your hand moving. Don't sit and stare. Now, when I've already done, as I showed you a few minutes ago, I've already done tons of analytical, linguistic, logical, left brain work. In fact, 2 hours at least of Photoshop. Photoshop and Google search for the last 2 hours. So my head is full of ideas, right? Pages and pages. So now I'm flipping from left brain to right brain. And again, right brain is a creative side. How do you know when your right brain, we're working in your right brain? Let me say that again. The answer is when you're drawing faster than you can think, like I'm doing right now. I'm just barely thinking. I'm thinking of buildings, sidewalk, street. I'm not sure, what else you want to call it. And then I'm thinking maybe bridge in the distance. So I've already thought about that a little bit. And then a mountain way over in the distance. They may not like that idea now. The first thing that came to my mind was in my previous mural, which I won't show you right now, I didn't have any bridges. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. Famous cities often have bridges in it, famous bridges. New York, London, Paris, all have famous bridges. The city I live does not have any famous bridges in it because when they founded this city, they weren't thinking about artists doing paintings. I don't know what was wrong with them. They could have moved the city 5 miles down the road and built it straddling a river, but they didn't do that. I wasn't around to advise them 230 years ago. I'm really struggling to try to get this. So I guess this building and this building are the same thing, evidently. Yeah. And I believe this is the building, I think, that I've been going to. No. I've been going to this building. The mural I'm painting is inside this building. And this looks like the same building as that from a different. I think that's the case. Okay, I think this is the other side. Forgive me while I try to get my bearings here. So I think there's 2 buildings here, 1 and 2. Again, all that's, do you understand? That's back to left brain analytical logical thinking. I have to figure out, and I really do want to get, because they mentioned it the first time around, and then it kind of got lost in the shuffle. Now they approved of their sketches. Do you understand? So I didn't. That's. The main purpose of doing sketches like this is so that there are no surprises. I mean, the last thing you want is to spend 40 or 50 hours on a mural, or any kind of painting, you know that. And when you deliver it, or when they come in and look at it, they go, right? That is the dreaded, that's not what we were thinking. Oh my goodness, would that be a disaster? It would be. Ask me how many times I've heard the dreaded, hey, let me tell you, just in case I'm talking to any artists, now I don't know, I'm thinking about it. I don't think I'm going to have anybody literally sign off on this sketch. Literally sign, like their name. But most of the time, that's a good idea. Here's why. Let me tell you what it's like to be an artist. This is some of the most practical, business advice perhaps I've ever given on a daily art adventure. All right, you ready for it? Art business advice. Here it is. When you're an artist and you're doing rough sketches for your client and you deliver them, either deliver them or email them or whatever to your client who is not an artist looks at your sketches, listen to me, and he or she has the word in the back of their mind. The word in the back of their mind, because they're not an artist, is either sketch or rough sketch. Now, I really need to, here, let me move this camera. I want you to be able to see me for a minute, because I have to act this out. Because this is so important. All right, here's the way, I would say about 99% of all the non-artists in the world, here's how they respond to a sketch that an artist sent to them. You ready? Comes. Yeah, okay. Did you see that? I am Mr. or Mrs. CEO. I'm planning a $5, $10, $15,000 job, but I've spent hours of hard work doing rough sketches. And Mr. or Mrs. CEO, who's busy, has 1,000 things on their mind, and either comes through their email or their secretary or their administrative assistant, whatever, prints it out, or who knows, let's say they print it out. And they say, here's the rough sketch, or here's the sketch from Mr. Dan Nelson, the artist, okay? Here's how Mr. CEO, I swear, I've never been in the room, but I swear, this is what happens. Okay, about 1/2 of a second. That's my guess. Maybe at most, okay, 1.5 seconds. That's average. All right. Now, if you insist that Mr. and Mrs. CEO sign the thing, then all of a sudden things get a whole lot. Mr. and Mrs. CEO, their administrative assistant says, Mr. Boss, Miss Boss Man, Mr. Boss Man, Mrs. Boss Man, Dan Nelson has asked for a signature. Now all of a sudden, boom, everything's different. What? What the? Give me that thing. Okay. Do you see the difference? We went from okay to where do I sign it? Where do I sign it? Anywhere, Mr. Boss. Okay, good enough. Why is he bothering me with this stuff? Okay, but we just got him to look at it for twice, 3, 4, 5 times as long because he has to sign it. Do you understand? Now, I don't think I have to do this with this client because we've got a fairly long history now going with us, and they're good. I know them, they know me, and we've already done the hard work of doing 3, 4, 75% of this. All right, but what happens then is, as the artist, so that it comes back to me, either they signed it or they didn't sign it. Things are much better if they do sign it. Plus, if they do sign it, they're legally bound, number one, to pay you for the work and to pay you for changes. Do you understand? By the way, work that into your cost estimate. I'm going to charge you $5,000 for this painting. I'm going to charge you $100 an hour for any changes that come after you've signed off on it. Something like that. Typically should be in your cost, in your cost proposal. Of course, you're really nice and friendly, not like the way I'm being right now. This is just between us artists. You're real friendly and say, now that probably won't happen, but if there's any changes, if there's any changes, of course you have to pay for those. And Mr. or Mrs. Secretary goes, oh, that's right. And usually they don't complain. Usually the big boss person says, yeah, okay, we'll pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more because he did submit. If you don't submit sketches, you're screwed. If you don't get it signed, you're half screwed. Okay, so again, I don't know when I've ever given such intense and practical advice to my fellow artists who are trying to make a living as an artist. So what happens then? They don't care about sketches because in a non-artist mind, you see, a sketch is like crap. Who cares? I don't care about sketches. That's a non-artist. Do you understand? As an artist, we're going, oh, what are you talking about? I spent 12 hours. I spent 8 hours. That would be realistic. I spent way more than 8 hours doing the sketches for the first part of this job. But they don't care about sketches because they're not an artist. They don't know what that means. We live on different planets, artists and non-artists. I'm exaggerating slightly to make the point, right? Okay, so then what happens when they either, let's say it's a mural, when they walk into the room and see it for the first time, now Mr. and Mrs. CEO is actually looking with their brain engaged. They're going, wow, cool. What's that down there? I don't know, who said they could get that out of here? I'm exaggerating because I've suffered much at the hands of Mr. and Mrs. CEO, as you can tell. This is some hard-bought wisdom I'm giving you here, as you can tell. So that's the source of where my passion is coming from. So anyway, so that's why you make them sign normally. Now, again, I don't think I'll make these people sign because we're way down the road already, and we have a relationship and history. So, but if it weren't for that, I made them sign first time around. Okay, they had to sign it before I proceeded with the finest thing, and because the last thing in the world you want is That's not what I thought, right? So there you go. Some real intense business advice from Uncle Dan. All right, let's get back to drawing here. Aren't you glad we took that? And again, I know that only applies to some of you who are actually trying to make a living as an artist or trying to get jobs as an artist. Hello, Samya. Samya Sakshi. Deogam. I probably butchered your name. Anyway, good to have you watching nonetheless. All right, so let's get back to keep your hand moving. And to get the point across, forgive me if my mom's watching. I'll say it's more like keep the damn hand moving. Okay, that it comes with a real intensity. And I did somewhere here yesterday. There we go. Yesterday I actually did some thinking. That's right. I did some thinking about these buildings, thinking about skylines. You know, I'm familiar with skylines of having lived in several big cities and visited several more. You know, so I want to come up with a variety. Let's go back. Let's eliminate the bridge now at this point, and let's just do let's try the bridge down lower, shall we? Nashville has a crazy skyline. Dallas has like the Reunion Arena ball and a bunch of stuff. Of course, New York is the most iconic skyline in America, but I did New Yorkish stuff, by the way, in this. In fact, this is the Empire State Building. This is the Chrysler Building. None of everything else is made up, but and I'm sorry, whoops, I'm a little bit off. There we go. Oh, I'm kind of liking this a little bit better. I can actually tuck the mountains behind some of these buildings. That's right. It doesn't have to be separate like this. They can overlap, and I can put the bridge down here. Once again, how do you know when you're drawing on the right side of your brain? You're doing it like I'm doing right now. Your pencil is going faster than your brain, okay? And it's here where happy accidents happen. Bob Ross's, one of his best quotes, happy little accidents. All right, and that's the best one I've done so far. So I'm gonna look at that and then do another one. By the way, do I have, just to give you some idea. Oh yeah, so here's some of my sketches. I'm not going to show them to you, I just want to show you this stack of paper. Here is some of my sketches from the first go round, and this isn't even all of them. I've eliminated some and pulled them up. All right, so that's about 60 pages. Some of them have several sketches on them. Oh, some of them have no sketches, I see. And again, I'm just showing you that, and then this is not showing off at all. I just want to give a realistic impression, again, of what it's like to be an artist, and what it's like to do. Now I'm leaning forward now, you may see, and I've got to tell you the truth, after I started this broadcast, I'm a crazy little pain in my lower back. So nothing serious, just one of those irritating things. So it's keeping me from leaning back or going back and forth the way I would normally go, I think. Okay, so we do buildings coming down in front of the bridge and then mountains coming up behind the bridge. Now, again, I don't know if they like that, will like that idea. I have a hunch they will. I think this will be the end of the mural. In other words, this kind of goes like with a big cabinet in between and sky over the top of the cabinet. But this would be the the right-hand end of the mural. And it makes a little bit of logical sense that the mural, that the city would fade to nature. Now, here's a downside. Those mountains, I live in North Carolina, and this company is headquartered in North Carolina, so I don't know that they'll go for snow-covered mountains, but by the same token, we don't have like a Golden Gate-ish kind of bridge in our city either, so I'm hoping that would not be an issue. I also have some trees interspersed, so it's definitely not, it's not really a Manhattan kind of city because this has trees. A sailboat down here, that'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Again, so stuff like that, like, oh, a sailboat. See, that's the, oh, and you know what I just realized? I was struggling because I say, well, I don't have the end of the bridge in the picture frame, and it just dawned on me, oh, I don't need to have the end. I don't need the end of the bridge. Doesn't need to be in the picture frame. Do you see? So, oh, that's a good idea. So I just had two sparks that came because I was drawing faster than I can think. So this to me became kind of like a pier or a breakwater. You know, I put people walking out there, and then this is water. Anyway, yeah, it might be maybe even a ocean liner with classic, like a Queen Mary, you know, with big smokestacks or something back there. That'd be kind of fun. And I kind of like the idea of the mountains going behind some of the city. Now, okay, so that's my this typical. You get better typically as you go. Oh, all right, let's stop. Let me show you another trick. Let's stop right there. So just in the few minutes I've been here, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, and then this was showing me the shape. Right, so I've done 5 pages of sketches already. This, you may know, is a light table. So here's a good trick. I turn it over and I see everything backwards, all a mirror image, and all of a sudden it messes with my brain. I see everything different now than I did just a few minutes ago. Again, still thinking of a pier here, but a street level stuff here. Some awnings at street level. To get the windows, all this stuff gives me lots of opportunity for musical icons, musical characters, all kinds of things. And of course, I'm a real sucker for diagonal lines. The diagonals of a roof, of a pitched roof, simply because as an artist, diagonals are much more interesting than horizontals and verticals. So let me show you again. Here's my finish. See, in this, everything in the skyline, not everything, but the skyline is kind of squarish buildings, but here's angle, 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 and angle. See, square building, square building, square building, but pitched. And in the other half, same idea. Here's a pitched roof, and almost everything else is square. So I'm thinking designerly. I'm thinking like abstract elements of design, even when I'm doing rough sketches. Maybe a porch, I don't know. That's pretty country-looking house right in the middle of a city, but it's conceivable. If we, especially if I, wait, I don't want to. Oh yeah, I can do that because I'm going backwards. I can put a, square office building right here. Square office buildings always have all kinds of paraphernalia on the top of them, air conditioning units, antennas, and so forth. And then these kind of buildings always have chimneys on them, and chimneys have chimney pots on the top. So anyway, all these little architectural icons. Oh, there was one element. Okay, now wait. Let's not forget. I have to get, I'm going to flip it over here. I absolutely must get the, it doesn't have to be, I don't think, front and center. It doesn't have to be the most prominent building in the place, but I absolutely have to get this. United Therapeutics is a company I'm working for. Once again, I was trying to keep that a secret, but you saw the image, so the word's out. I don't know, I want to be careful. I'm going to be safe, of my client. And so I kind of blew it there a little bit. So there's my the company that I'm working for. And then the other thing I didn't have any in the previous work, I believe. Yeah, there are no domes and no spires. Now I have a hunch, just with my finger in the air, I'm trying to get a sense of the culture of this particular company that I'm working for, which will remain unnamed. And I don't think they're the kind of culture that would warm up greatly to the concept of a church spire in their city. I'm saying an awful lot without saying an awful lot. But there are still, in any city, there are certainly city halls and courthouses, old-fashioned courthouses, that have spires on them and so on and so forth. And I'm just thinking of a city thing here. I think it'd be good to have that variety that I missed last time around. I'm really kind of thankful, if maybe you can tell, I'm really kind of glad that I have the opportunity to come back and add more to this mural, because I'm going, oh, wait a minute, I didn't have Jim Morrison in the first one. And by the way, in case you wonder, including any of these visages in the mural does not connote a approval of their person, lifestyle, philosophy, or message. I guess that's obvious, right? Oh boy. Except Satchmo. I'll go with him. I'll go with him. And no, I'm being silly. Stevie Wonder. I mean, how can you not love Stevie Wonder on very deep levels? Anyway, a little bit of the preacher in me coming out there. No, just because I put them in the picture doesn't mean I approve of them. How many of those are members of the 27 Club, by the way? Do you know? Are you familiar with the 27 Club? Here's the tragic truth. The 27 Club is a reference to all the, mostly rock musicians, but any pop celebrity person who died at the age of 27. Mostly at their own hand because of drug abuse. So, lest we wonder, well, what do you mean you don't approve of their lifestyle? Well, they died at 27. Either somebody shot them, or they shot somebody, or they shot up themselves and died because of... Anyway, never mind. Once again, the latent preacher is coming out in me. Let's keep them latent, Dan. Oh, boy. So, as you can see, I've spent almost all my time so far with sketches, just simply doing fun to have a ship in here, even if it's kind of a little bit of a, you know, Tommy the Tugboat kind of ship. All right, now I'm in a pickle because either I have to erase all this. Okay, bear with me one moment. I didn't plan this out carefully when I started it. So what I'm going to be doing now is reaching over here to my scanner, my computer scanner, and pulling up the scanner. Good, it's already open and alive here. It's not warmed up, but it's ready to go. So bear with me just a minute. So I'm going to scan that. Oh, wait a minute. No. Hang on. Hang on. I can do better than that. I'm just going to make a black and white copy. There we go. What am I thinking? Copy. Yes. Start black copy. Yes. All right. Whew. I'm going to move you guys again. Since do you like this? Do you feel kind of like a hooded falcon? Kind of. I put my hand over you so you can't see what's going on. Good shot. By the way, I am once again sharing my upstairs studio office. This is my office studio. Downstairs I have a pure painting studio, as you probably know. Anyway, I'm sharing my office once again. Yeah, that'll do. Wait. Yeah, sharing, hang on, I'm thinking of what I can do next. Sharing my office is being shared as a bedroom with my dear brother-in-law, he'll be with us just for a little while. So anyway, that's part of the reason my office is gonna be even messier than normal for a little while. All right, are you with me? Hello, Walber Pena? I'm gonna guess Walber Pena. I'm going to guess Pena, actually, but I'm not sure. Bless you. Thanks for watching, and thanks for speaking up. All right, just in case you're keeping score, it would be, I've done, yeah, 1, I think they're in order, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you with me? And then a copy. I'm going to turn this over. So this will be sketch number 7. So I hope you're catching. Does it seem like I'm going fast? I sure hope so. Because in my mind, I think that's the only way to get this difficult job of rough sketches, to get it done. It's just get her done. So now, do you remember this was a mirror image, and now I'm going to make a mirror image of that. So I'm back to the, but now of course I'm looking at it the way it will actually be on the wall, and I'm all the way to the point now where I'm actually willing to get just a tiny bit tighter. That's always exciting when you get it a little bit more accurate. Little bit, not much, just a little bit. And hey, let me pause for a minute. I posted on my YouTube community, so my apologies to those of you who watch me on an iPad, because an iPad doesn't pick up community, but I posted a couple months ago some tips for doing rough sketches, since this is and one of the tips was change tools. So I'm actually going to do that right now. I've been drawing so far, and some of you might wonder, by the way, what is it I'm drawing with? This is a really neat, it's made by Creative Mark. It's basically just a fat lead, graphite lead holder. And I love it. Somebody gave it to me in a gift a couple years ago. A fellow artist, never had one before, and found out, I use the heck, I bought 3 of them now. And, but so I'm going to put this away. And here's one of the tricks to help your brain stay fresh. This is weird, but again, another good tip. To help your brain stay fresh when you're doing rough sketches, you can do something as simple. I say change tools, but one of the main things is change color. So now I have, this is still a fat point, but it is a brown pencil. Now, you might say, well, let me make sure it actually is brown. Yeah, it is, okay. Some of you are saying, well, why does that matter? And the answer is, heck if I know. All I know, so here's what I do know, is that it makes a difference. It works. For some reason, your brain starts feeling different when you're drawing with a different color. Isn't that weird? I believe that's weird, but I know that it's true. So your brain starts getting a little bit refreshed, because, I mean, I would think, honestly, as an artist, that should not be a huge surprise to you, because, you know, a warm tone, sepia tone image feels very different in your brain than a black and white does, right? That makes sense? So that's basically all we're doing. We're just switching from one color to another, and so this is what I'm conceiving of as the either the pier. Now hang on a second. I am thinking out loud here. Should I make it stonework down to the water, or here's the water? No, I think I'm going to make it a pier. I'm going to put, you know, pylons going down. I'm just making this up. I'm not sure that's the right decision, but that's what I'm going to do right now. Then I'm going to have the road come in like this. Now this right here has to correlate, has to correspond. See, all along the bottom of my previous mural, there's a sidewalk, because that gives me, here's the Beatles crossing Abbey Road. This is Elvis Presley dancing on the sidewalk, and so on. So and so on. So that gives me a lot of place to put musicians and musical icons. So I'm going to stick with that, so that the home. So this is street and then sidewalk, and that means again, I'm making up, just having to visualize in my mind how this all works in real life, so that it's believable, of course. Now, by the way, I just used a whiteout pen to remove a line right there. Now it's time to start getting a little bit fussy. Is that the word? A little bit? Yeah. Let's start editing. Okay, and first, the number one thing I know that I have to have of the building, the company building that I'm doing this illustration for, their building has to be in here. So let's do that first, because that's, in a sense, that's a non-negotiable. Okay, and I'm assuming they're going to be able, yeah, they're going to be able to recognize their building without me. I don't have to do a ton of detail. It doesn't have to be exact. It's a very creative, interesting, contemporary building. So my sense is it won't be very hard for them to recognize it, because it's so characteristic. It does take up a lot of the city here, as you can see, but I think that's appropriate, right? You always want to flatter your client. All right, so that I'm committed to, if you will. I'm committed to the bridge, but in front of the bridge, I really do like the idea, again, just because it makes it look like a city, I like the idea of having a spire. I'm going to try to make it look not like a steeple, but like a spire. So, of course, the main thing is I won't put a cross at the top, because that would be the proverbial dead giveaway, right? So, and of course, I might be wrong about that. They might say, "Oh no, that'd be great to have a church in it." So, once again, every time you do a commission, I've talked about this before. Not usually when I'm doing a mural commission, but when I'm doing a painting, yes, you are, like it or not, you're always guessing, and that's the hard part. there's no question doing mural is harder than just doing your own work, because you're always trying to sneak into the mind of your client and go, Now that's a balancing act. They've hired you, or me in this case, they've hired us to do the artwork. So clearly, and hopefully they're familiar with your artwork. So you don't want to do anything that's way outside your norm, but within that fairly broad between those two wide guardrails, there's a lot of leeway. And yeah, you have to try to decide, with every commission, that is, you have to try to guess what you think your client is going to like. So here I'm doing the bridge with the top of the towers is our guitars. At the moment, just nondescript, not any particular brand or kind of guitar, just guitars. Now, the music, of course, in this music city, is, I'll show you the finished mural again. The music is decidedly pop rock music. It's not classical music, even though I do include a number of classical music icons. I'm a pretty serious musician, and so even though I can play rock, I play a harmonica, which is called a blues harp, by the way, not a harmonica. Your grandpa played the harmonica. I'm being facetious and a little bit nasty here. Your Uncle Bud plays the harmonica. If he's good, he plays a blues harp. All right, that's just a little bit of education there for you. And by the way, since I've got Bob Dylan staring right at me here, when you play a harmonica, some people say, "Ooh, like Bob Dylan." Okay, I'm gonna be a musical snob again for a minute. That's what you expect, no less from me, right? That would be no. Bob Dylan set blues harp back a good 2 generations. He's a terrible harmonica player. I mean, you play better than him? Heck yeah! That's not a very high bar to say you play better than Bob Dylan. Oh man! By the way, okay, I do like this. So I got my steeple, and hang on. I'm going to lean over here to my computer. I happen to know the name of that building, so just a second. Let's look up Dallas. It's a Reunion Arena. Reunion Arena. Okay, and then I get to hit images, because if I'm doing a, wow, I got all reconstruction. What's going on here? Evidently they're rebuilding it or something. I don't care about that. All right, there's the image I'm looking for. There we go. All right, glad I looked. It actually it goes like this. And it's not because it has to be Dallas, not by any means. I just want it to be believable and realistic. So if it looks like that famous building in Dallas, then in fact, people will embrace it as like, oh yeah, that looks like something I would see in the city. They don't have to know that it's in Dallas, right? That's my job to know. That's not their job to know. Now, I don't know that I'm going to have room for a boat in here. But once again, it would sure be fun. It'd be fun to have a yellow submarine. I don't know how to fit a yellow submarine. Dang, because it would be underwater, so we can't see it. Oh, you know what I mean. Maybe real tiny, I can fit that in there when I'm doing the actual mural. That would be fun, wouldn't it? We all live in, just in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind, I know you do. There we go. A little Grecian architecture. I've succeeded in making that look like a town hall instead of like a church. Again, I'm guessing my client and just kind of guessing that. Now all of this here is pretty. Let me see. Yeah, I already have one building. Okay, time for me to come over here to my computer again and look at city skylines. How often is there a building shaped like this? You know, the top. How iconic is that? I want to know. I also don't have a dome anywhere in my mural yet. That's Hang on, I'm going to print out some of these real quick. Bear with me. There are a number of websites that feature silhouettes of, oh, it's tiny, rats. Silhouettes of cities. So I might just print out a few of those in a minute. Again, bear with me, I'm over here leaning back like my mama told me never to lean back. That's what I'm doing. Whoops. I should have done this earlier, I think. Print out some skylights just to spark some ideas and to help me. I can print this out at draft quality. That'll help speed things up. All right. I'll wait for that to come off now. Here at the street level, do I really want this, you know, house? Yes, I'm thinking, but not with the porch running all across the front. I'm thinking about, you know, in a at least in America, in a fairly established city, some parts of it, there will be some, not New York, for sure, at least not Manhattan that I'm familiar with, but there'll be some sort of leftover houses, right? It's house-like architecture, but then at the street level, it's been converted into, you know, like boutiques or, you know, commercial property. So that's what I'm aiming for there. I guess I'm okay with just a boring, square, boring commercial building right here. You can ask me, so do I feel different since I'm drawing in brown? The answer is not so that I can tell. But, oh, how about one of these rounded? I think I had at least one of these in my previous somewhere. Oh, well, just a really tiny one. You know, a rounded awning. No, that's all. Good. So no, this is different. Again, this is like a street level boutique shops, right? Round awning over the door. That's what I'm thinking right there. And again, when I start doing details on these buildings, in these buildings, like this, for instance, this big round building right here, I'll have an antenna going up like this. Then there will just accidentally happen to be a flag coming off the antenna. So what is that? That's an eighth note. Those of you who are not musicians, you won't catch that. That's all right. This is a mural specifically for musicians. So it's a lot of insider jokes, if you will. And I might decide that looks stupid later. So be it. It might be true. Some clouds up here. I'm missing a bit of something here. Oh, and a tree here. Yeah. Tree right here. A little bit of a building right in front of the tree. And yeah, tree here as well. It's again in keeping with the. Do you see the mural that's already been done? You see, there's a lot of. This is definitely not Manhattan. more like Toronto, Canada, maybe, or many other cities with the trees interspersed. I was born in Canada. I'm proud of my Canadian heritage. We moved away from Canada when I was but a lad. But I was naturalized 40 years ago, right before my wife and I got married. It was kind of interesting. I went through the naturalization process in Texas, and I think that every other person being in my class, so to speak, everybody else being neutralized is how I usually joke about it. Everybody else in my class was Mexican. Even the people processing me, even all the people behind all the desks that I went through as I was being processed, they were, to my memory, they were all Mexican. And no, not Hispanic, they were Mexican. This was Texas, after all, in Texas in the late 70s. So that was fun. So I was brought in as an honorary Mexican. Lest anybody is triggered and you think I'm a racist. Yeah, I don't know whether to get into this lecture or not. But heck yeah, I'm this far in, I will. Okay, hear ye, hear ye. When a person or a culture is coming out of racism, as ours is slowly doing, one of the early and immature stages of recovery from racism. So let me say that again. So a culture is coming out, or an individual, same applies to an individual. When they're coming out of it, they typically go through an adolescent stage of recovery. And in that adolescent stage, it's inappropriate to talk about racial distinctions at all, or any, it's almost uncomfortable even to mention race. But let me tell you, in my opinion is right on this, that is a very, very, very immature level. Mature non-racism is when everybody is free to speak in love, in joy, in truth. And you can say things like, well, you know what? Seems to me like black people from Jamaica run really fast. See, that's very utterly politically incorrect. But it's absurd. It's only because our nation is immature in its emergence. Some of you are thinking, it hasn't emerged at all. Oh, come on. Yes, it has. We don't, nobody in our country approves of slavery. Nobody in our country approves of racism except for lunatic fringe. True lunatic. And by the way, and that is not, nobody in the public sphere approves of racism. If you think they do, then that's just because you're drinking the Kool-Aid of cultural Marxist philosophy, and you probably don't hardly know who Marx is, let alone what he taught. So anyway, so me not having recovered significantly from my erstwhile racism, and I'm being flippant in my tone, but I'm very, very serious actually, and we could have a long talk about how one emerges from that. Number one step is recognizing that it's real. And from white people, that takes some revelation, because nice white people, so to speak, quote unquote, white people who think they're not racist, they need to go through a long, deep period of discovery. Go, oh my goodness, wow, it is true. I have had advantage because of my white skin. See, and I'm way past that. That is very true, and so on. And I'm getting in too deep, so I want to stop pretty soon. But anyway, that lets me free to say, that leaves me free in case some of you are triggered by my just saying I was naturalized with a bunch of Mexicans. It's because you're if you are triggered, it's because you are still in the early stages of recovery from racism, which describes most of the, never mind, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Most of the people that scream racism in our culture are in fact early in their emergence from racism themselves. And anyway, I'm going to leave that there for now. And some of you are going to say, you're a good artist, you should stick to art, stop talking about philosophy or history, and we've talked about that before too. I am not an artist. Art is something that I do with my brain and my heart and my soul and my mind and my hands, but it is not the core of my identity. If you want to get closer to the core of my identity, I am in fact a philosopher, historian, and writer. That's closer to even that. I don't even wrap my identity up in that. I am a human being. That's good enough. Child of God, happy, the happy God, not the grumpy one that you might have been introduced to as a child. And now I'm just getting mean. All right, come on, back down. I didn't mean to poke you that hard, really. Yes, I did, but let's pretend I didn't, okay? Deep down, I'm a raging optimist. I really am. All right, so I seem to be coming right along with this. In oh, there it is. Okay, here's my skylines. Finally, they came off the print. I didn't notice. So, is there anything here? Yeah, there is. Buildings that are tall and dome-ish shaped at the top. Well, that looks like the Chrysler building, so I don't want that, but hello, Ian Karasawa. Are you Japanese? Ian sounds sounds Irish. Karasawa, that does sound Japanese. Anyway, thank you for speaking up. I appreciate it. You guys, my audience is extraordinarily quiet today, and that's all right. You're more than welcome to watch and not say anything. Of course, you're more than welcome to say something too. So this is sketch number 8, if my calculations are correct, including one printout copy, which we won't count that as a separate one, even though we used it to plot things back around. So after, how long have I been broadcasting? I don't know, but here's what I've got so far. And I like it. I hope my client, 4 mountains might be a bit much. I might have to reduce that down to 3. We'll see. You will notice that the one thing that is completely missing at the moment is all my musical references. All the stuff I spent hours looking up before I started drawing. And that's okay. This is my, I'm sorry, I was out of the picture for a while there. This is my blank canvas, if you will. The only musical things are the top of the bridges, guitars. Now I want to come in here and do, well, I tell you what, I'm sitting here thinking, right, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. So here's what I'm going to do. And I think when I end my broadcast here, because I feel like I've fulfilled it's been great being with you. Thank you. I've fulfilled the assignment, which was talking about how to do rough sketches and how to keep your hand moving. So I'm going to put this on my scanner this time. I'm going to scan it into Photoshop, and I'm going to blow it up. And then I'm going to print it out. Now my printer only does 8.5 by 11, so that means I'll have to piece several pieces of paper together. But I would like it to be about twice as big. I'd like it to be quite large. My hands were doing this. You couldn't see them. So I want it to be quite large. And then I'm going to trace that print with, again, fairly straight lines. I don't think I'll use a ruler other than to make sure my buildings are vertical. I'm terrible at getting vertical lines out of plumb. And on that big sketch, then I'll be able to do things like all the musical tricks. And again, some of it will be, some of these faces, some of these faces will be like in the clouds or in the mountains or in the trees or even subtly on reflected buildings. I'll fit as many of these in as I can. So faces, and of course that's way too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 faces. I don't think I can fit that many in. And then of course I've got band logos. So you saw Chicago a minute ago. I'll fit a few of these in. Some of them are already in. Like for instance, let me just show you. So here's Prince. I don't know if you can see this or not, but his, whatever that thing is called, is there on that building. And this prism, and I forget who that is, but that's there in the building. Here's Jerry Garcia coming out of the door. There's the kiss, tongue sticking out is there. And anyway, there's a lot that's already in the previous mural that I don't have to repeat, but I'll get as many of those in as I can. And then of course, just wherever I can dream it up, I will be, where's some of my other references? I will be doing, like maybe this building will turn into a keyboard standing on end. I'd love to get a Hammond B3 in there. A Hammond B3 is the iconic, even though it's made for a church organ, it's the iconic rock and roll organ. Again, I'm a musician, so I know this. You musicians know this. Then there's some classical music stuff, like the bridge. Oh, this could be fiddle as well. That's a bridge for a violin. That's a timpani, of course. Cowbell. Saturday Night Live. I didn't get a bass. That was kind of embarrassing. I got an upright bass, but I didn't get a bass in the first, so I'd like to fix that here. Maybe I should make the bridge have 2 basses instead of, I don't know. That's a mandolin. Anyway, I'm just blathering now. I took some close-up photographs of the humbucker on my Fender Strat downstairs. This is the bridge on my Takamine guitar. These are the controls again on my Fender Strat. Here's a trumpet mute. I play trumpet. It's one of my main instruments. I play sax, but I printed these out. Etc. Enough. Well, I'm pretty happy, by the way. I don't know how long I've been broadcasting. That's how long this broadcast. Hello, Marcelo. Oh, from Brazil. Good to have you here. Thank you very much for speaking up. Oh my goodness. So, Marcelo, and is it Junior or is it Junior? I'm going to guess Junior. I'm not by any means an expert at Portuguese, but I know it's a little bit different from Spanish. Thank you for speaking up. I appreciate it very much. All right. I'm happy with this so far. I'm going to blow it up and then try to fit as much music in it as I can. Okay. Let me hang on. Yeah. Let me say goodbye. For those of you who just joined me, who's this talking?